G'day Bomber fans, seems to be a happy fan base right now for the time being. The axe has been swung. We were calling for change and change is what we got, but I don't think it's just a one-off weekend thing. I think this team selection is telling us a lot about what we could potentially be seeing in the off-season. There's a lot to discuss here, which is why I'm making a video about it. I don't usually do this, but let's get into it. Let's quickly start with Fremantle's team for Sunday's game. Now, I highlighted just the one change from the Dockers in my preview. Fife challenged his 1-week suspension, but it was unsuccessful, so Fife will not be playing. I said that either Cooper Simpson or Neil Erasmus would replace him. It was the latter in the end. Erasmus was incredible in the reserves last weekend, and his good form has been rewarded. Funny that, playing well in the Rezzies, so getting a game because of that. And Freo are a top 4 team rewarding a young player, showing you don't have to be a bottom side to play the young guns. But anyway, it's a strong team for Freo. You're going to whiz through the lineup. Ryan, Draper, Cox, Walker, Chapman, Wagner. No Alex Pearce, still with that forearm, but that backline is underrated. Jordan Clark and Sharp on the wings. You got Young, Sarong, Brayshaw and the guts. That forward line is a nice mix of small and tall as well. Tracy is a machine. We got to watch out for him. And Amos, you know it's a good team when Will Brodie is left on the emergency. So strong Fremantle team. Let's talk about us though, what you guys really care about. Alrighty, Essendon, let's go through the ins and outs. Now, Jake Kelly returns into the team. He was sore last week, so missed the game. He replaces Jordan Ridley, who is out for 3 weeks with a hip flexor strain, I think it is. I think that's a fair change, to be honest. I know some hate on Kelly, but this is a guy that can lock down a small forward and be serviceable if caught out on a taller opponent, which the Dockers do have. Without Ridley, I think Kelly back there is a no-brainer. I highlighted that in my preview. Alwyn Davey Jr. comes in for Archie Perkins. I really like this. We've been missing forward pressure lately, and Perkins has been struggling. This has been coming for a while, this drop. It's overdue in my eyes. He needed a run in the Rezzies from about round 14 or 15 onwards, and now these next two, these are the big ones for me. Nick Bryan coming in for Peter Wright, that is huge. The fact that we're backing in young Bryan to play against Darcy and Jackson, that is a lot of faith to put in a young guy whose only game this year was a fairly average one against Ned Moyle. This isn't just a step up in terms of quality from Ned Moyle. It's going from a second tier ruck at a pretty average club to one of the best rucks in the comp. So Bryan is really going to have his work cut out for him. I don't hate the call. I like rewarding good performing players, but I wouldn't have been surprised if Goldie came into the side. And honestly, I think this spells the end for Goldie. He's now below Nick Bryan in the pecking order, so that to me suggests he should be thinking about retirement. I'll talk about that in a second, because Archie Roberts, he is in. This is what we've been calling out for I don't even know how long, for months, the whole season really. He's been our best performing VFL player all year, bar Nick Bryan. I like it. Face value, we're rewarding good form. Bryan and Roberts have been dominating in the VFL all year. They get a chance to prove themselves at AFL level. We're trying to improve our forward setup through pressure, trusting pressure instead of game-winning ability. Perkins is a better player than Davey. I think we can safely say that, but what Davey gives us in that forward line is something we've missed for weeks. Remember when we were talking about that Adelaide game in round 5 or 6 when he led the ground for pressure acts? Didn't do much else, but really made it hard for them for rebound. That's what we've been missing lately. I know a certain commenter will be happy. He was quick to point out that he got laughed at when he suggested Davey should come in for the Crows game. Honestly, mate, I think you were spot on. We need pressure somehow, and we may as well try rolling out young Davey, who at least gives a crack, even if he doesn't put it all together. Before we look at the team as a whole, let's just talk about Archie Roberts and what we should expect from him on Sunday. I think he may start, to be honest. He's one of the fittest in the club, so using him as the sub may not even be ideal. He was 4th or 5th in our time trial. He's an outside player, halfback as a draftee, but has played mostly wing this year in the VFL, although his last few weeks in defence in the Rezzies have been exceptional too. He's a great ball user, great left foot, he's quick, he takes the game on, but what I think the fans are going to really love most about Roberts is his attitude. He's very tenacious, he's low-key a little bit of a pest, which I like. He loves to get under the skin of opponents, he's going to piss off quite a few people in his career. I kind of see him as a Massimo D'Ambrosio clone, but at this stage of his career quite a bit ahead, as in where Mass was at this stage, comparing them. Roberts was All-Australian as a draftee, taken really late, bargain option. I said at the time this was one of the best picks in the draft. I always thought he was going to be a 200 gamer for a club. I said that on my other channel. We were lucky to get him, and thankfully we get to see him play this year. Let's look at the rest of the team now. Let's take a look at the best 23. Obviously that back 6 is a bit undersized. No Ridley or Reed. It means Laverty's probably going to need to do a job on Amos or Tracy. Tracy's a bit stronger, so maybe there. Or actually, probably Ben Mackay on Tracy. I don't even know. It's tough to find a matchup. I'm sure we're going to see Redmond one out on them a bit as well, or even Kelly. You got Martin and McGrath on ground level to try and stop those smalls, which are plenty of. Cox and Dersma on the wing. I'm sure we see Roberts and Jones there as well. Shield right in the guts. Up forward, Stringer, Caddy, Durham won't be there much. Langford, Jones and Gresham. Throw in Menzies and Davey too. Shield was up forward a lot last week as well. Kicked a couple of goals. Only had 34% centre bounce attendances. The midfielders, Draper, Caldwell, Merritt, Durham will be there, Shield, Parrish, of course. I'll talk about him in a second. On the bench, we got Parrish, Bryan, Davey, Roberts, and Menzies, who I think will be the eventual sub. Honestly, I still think there are quite a few holes. The forward line isn't great. No, Ridley is rough. I still think there are some stragglers there. Jai Menzies keeps his spot, probably only because of our small forward fleet and how weak it is. Darcy Parish, is he going to be fit? He looked so underdone last week. That was brutal. I look at Darcy Parish before round 1 in that practice game against Geelong, and look at him now. I know people like to heap criticism his way, but he clearly doesn't look right to be playing, or at least didn't last week. When the season ends, or at least mathematically, I wouldn't mind him resting out and focusing on 2025, especially when we've got guys like Sartas and Hobbs who really do deserve a go in the AFL. That midfield is almost too deep. It isn't even that good a midfield, it's just deep. Now, I think this selection is a bit of a statement for certain players, starting with Peter Wright. He will play in the VFL. That gives him a chance to get on top of some reserves level defenders. Also, Todd Goldstein will play in the Rezzies. Everyone except Dyson Heppel will. I'm honestly surprised that Goldie is playing in the Rezzies, to be honest, but for Goldie and Heppel, it's a bit of a message. Scott is clearly saying, he might be saying, are they needed next year? Are we going to see one or both of them retire now that the year is up? They must know now that they are not in the club's future or near plans. Goldie especially, he's played 3 games since the bye. Brian's now overtaken him. And also, Sam Wiedemann, this was probably his best chance to play footy this year. He's playing good in the VFL, but if he can't crack into that team without Ridley and Reid there isn't much chance next year when Lewis Hayes has developed more. Those 3 are out of contract. They're being dropped at exactly the time you do not want to be dropped. It's all well and good being regular members early in the year, like Heppel and Goldie were, but come exit meeting, this last little period will be a talking point. That's if they even get to that stage. They could retire before then, who knows. Also, Nick Hine, this was a good chance for him to come back in the team. He's out of contract as well, being made to wait on a contract, so it's tough for a few of these older guys. I may as well go through the VFL team. They play today, actually, by the time this video is out. I want to quickly go over that side. It's on screen. I'll just talk about the AFL guys and some others of note. The AFL ones have a little asterisk to their name, so you can see them better on screen. Tex Wanganeen, I think he needs to play at least 1 game this year if he wants to avoid being delisted. He's in defence in the VFL. He's playing well now, but it's too little too late. I think he's gone. Lewis Hayes has just signed a new deal, 2-year deal. Nick Hind, he's another one who's unlucky not to be playing, out of contract, as I said, being made to wait on a deal. Wiedemann I spoke of, Ben Hobbs I spoke of, Jaden Davey. Now, he could have been added to that 26-man squad. He's in good form, but I think he's just lacking a bit from a pressure perspective. He's another one who's out of contract as well. Lamandual up forward this weekend. That could be interesting. Goldstein, Ruck, Sartas, Setterfield, a bunch of AFL listed guys. Now, a few guys I want to talk on that aren't part of our AFL team. James Barrett is out of the side. He is a draft hopeful who made his debut last week. Keep an eye on this next guy, though, Job Shanahan. The guy on the bench. He is one of the best key forwards in the upcoming draft. He's making his league debut for us. A bit of a showcase game for him, so watch out for him. He could be an exciting player. Now, I don't know how many of these AFL-listed players play and how many get held back, because we play the day after. Wright, Hobbs, and Heppel are the AFL emergencies. I wouldn't be surprised if 1, 2, or even all 3 are rested in the reserves. Alright, that is that. Just a quick video. I'm happy with this team selection. We get to see Roberts, we get to see Davey in the forward line, Brian in the ruck. It's a very young team, even with Kelly coming in. One of our younger teams of the year. A bit of a look at the next year, perhaps. Let me know what you think down below. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Also, if you are tipping based on me being at the game this weekend, I am not. I've been sick all week. I cancelled the Melbourne trip, so I won't be in attendance. Change your tip to Freo if you're going based on me seeing every Essendon win this year. But that's all. Like, subscribe, and go Bombers.